Like my grandbaby says when he wakes up in the morning, I'm back. I'm RYCJ, and I am back sharing my top 10 favorite books read this year. It has been a slow reading year for me. I've been struggling trying to find the right books, to really move me. And so this year I read about 20 of them. And out of that 20, I have this top 10 list. Now, I decided, because you can always check out my review blog, just Google me to find my more detailed thoughts on each of these books. I thought what I would do this time around is to talk about or to share which books surprised me from those that did not. So I have A Promised Land by Barack Obama. Barack Obama's memoir did not surprise me. What surprised me was that the memoir was over 700 pages, and so it's the first political memoir that I've ever read cover to cover. All these books I read cover to cover, but that's the first one that I read cover to cover. So his story is moving. I have Chasing History by Carl Bernstein. I always want to say Changing History. Carl's memoir, which is a journalistic memoir, talks about historical perspectives on running or working in a newsroom, which is my thing. I love reading that type stuff. So his story, really, while it was engaging, it did not surprise me because I didn't know what to expect. The same thing for Just Tyrus by Tyrus. I caught Tyrus on Gutfeld one night, and of course, I'm laughing. So I'm thinking, I need to read his book. So I pick it up, get it. And of course, because I didn't know what to expect, like I said, it was not surprising. What was surprising, or at least really funny, because his memoir is touching, I will say that. But, I'm laughing at him carrying Prince out of a club. Oh my goodness, I love Prince, but that was so funny. All right. And I have Stephen A. Smith, Straight Shooter. Stephen A. Smith. His memoir was not surprising. What was for me really moving, I'm going to say, is the way he tells his truth. I have so much respect for the way he tells his truth, particularly in his memoir. The Unwanted by Kyne Nguyen. Okay, now Kyne's memoir did surprise me. And it surprised me because when I picked up the memoir and started reading, it read kind of like a novel. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, is this a memoir or what? And then it dawned on me after recalling a few Vietnamese authors that I read before, speaking about how difficult it is to translate that language, its sentiments in English. And that's when I realized, as I'm reading, Kyne is trying to give a voice, or rather is giving a voice to the orphaned children left behind by American soldiers. And I'm sure that those soldiers do not even know that they have children left behind in Vietnam. And he's given a voice to those children to let, the world know what it's like for those children living over there in Vietnam. That book definitely surprised me and definitely is a must. I have Spare by Prince Harry. Prince Harry's memoir surprised me greatly. I did not expect to read what I did. Here's the thing. We all do not get to choose the families that we are born into. And some of us are born into families that are a little more challenging than other families. The way Prince Harry explains those challenges and what his life was like living, in the palace, really, really surprised me. And I would like to think that a lot of people who might be saying, oh, they don't know and won't like it or whatever, read that memoir. You'll be very, very surprised how he writes his story. Clarence Thomas, My Grandfather's Son. I was not surprised to read reading Clarence's memoir, My Grandfather's Son. What was really most engaging and most touching to me was the man who raised him. Of course, his story was, just the entire book. That book was very, wait a minute, let me say this. It was not surprising, but I was very touched by the content. And speaking of content, Rabbit by Patricia Williams, Miss Pat. I was very surprised to read her story because I had picked it up earlier, maybe a couple of years ago, Wasn't quite doing it for me. And picked it up this year and started reading. And it wasn't so much as the content that's in there. It was the way she shares her story. Oh my goodness, that one definitely is a must. And Irma Bombek. When you look like your passport, it's time to go home. Okay, so I rarely read an author more than once, but Irma Bombek, I have read some of her books. They're quite hilarious. That one, though, had me laughing all night long, so I was not surprised. And finally, Behind the Laughter by Anthony Griffith and Bridget Travis Griffin, his wife. This memoir totally surprised me because I read it at a time, I want to say one of the most difficult times in my life. My father passed away, and I pick up this book, and like I said, I was having a rough reading year, so I wasn't expecting much, but I opened that particular book. Oh my goodness. I just have to say that, beyond engaging and touching, that book meant so much to me because I read it at a time when I really needed to read. Sometimes we have these jobs, and in Anthony's case, he's a comedian where he has to tell these jokes and laugh, and he's laughing, doing his job to keep the roof over his head, the lights on, and whatnot. And he's doing his job when he really doesn't have very much to laugh about. I have so much respect for that story. Definitely a must. It's why I say to all of the aspiring memoirists out there is someone for your book. Someone needs to read your story. So to all the memoirists in these books that I've shared here, today, thank you so much. Your stories meant a lot to me. I hope everyone has had a Merry Christmas and looking forward to 2024, the new year. Happy New Year.